What's new, YouTube? Cold Covers here, back with a brand new video. And today, as y'all can tell by the title, we got a brand new episode of It's Deep in Art, the series where we explore the music, symbolism, and creative decisions made in some of the most iconic cover arts in hip-hop. Today, we will be exploring Iceman, as y'all can tell by the title. Yes, we'll be going into Iceman, so without further ado, we're going to get into the video. But wait a second. Make sure you guys like the video, comment down below, and subscribe. And turn on those notifications as well, so you can stay up to date with the latest news. And yeah, it's gonna be a special one, y'all, so stay tuned. Iceman marks Drake's 18th studio album. Released through OVO Sound, the project arrived at a pivotal moment in his career, becoming one of the most anticipated releases since the following of his highly publicized 2024 feud with Kendrick Lamar. Despite the scrutiny, Drake responded with numbers that reinforced his status as one of music's biggest stars. According to Billboard, he became the first artist to simultaneously occupy the top 3 positions on the Hot 100 chart. The single Janice STFU debuted at number 1, while Drake also surpassed Michael Jackson for the most Hot 100 number 1 records among male artists. And if you're wondering if this is a good album or not, I think the numbers truly speak for themselves here. Me personally, I will play devil's advocate. I know a lot of people say that they want Drake to open up more, they want him to get in that bag. But I think in this album, he gives you the best of both worlds. He gives you songs of, grief and what transpired throughout the past 2 years. But he also gives you that side of him that likes the party, that likes the turn-up songs, that likes the club bangers. So he's giving you both in one album. Me personally, I'll take an album with just Drake diary. People call them diary raps. I'll take a whole album with diary raps, bro. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'll take that Drake. Iceman is Drake reflecting on the last 2 years of his career. Across the album, he addresses betrayal, revenge, loyalty, lawsuits, allegations, and his relationships with both friends and enemies. The Iceman persona represents Drake at his coldest and most calculated. Instead of letting emotions control his decisions, he presents himself as someone who has learned from the situations around him and is moving with a different mindset. At its core, Iceman feels like Drake's response to everything that has happened since 2024, giving listeners a look into how he processed the criticism, the controversy, and challenges he faced. So one of my standout tracks for the album is Firm Friends. Drake over a Conductor Williams beat is a chef's kiss. I'm not gonna lie, y'all, it sounds great. They're supposedly supposed to have an album dropping, so we'll see about that. I don't know if that's confirmed or not. But specifically why I like this track so much is not because of the catchy beat, but because of this line specifically. They'll never know they friends' decisions friends never had to decide, right? And on the surface, it doesn't sound like a bar. It doesn't really sound like he's saying much. But you can see this theme spread throughout the album, right? And this is the theme I want to use specifically when it comes to recreating the cover art. I want to tap into this theme of betrayal, this theme of everybody turning against you and how that makes somebody feel, how that plays into your mindset, right? So on the track Make Them Cry, he says, "To me, he sold the only thing that has ever mattered." And the reason why he says this, Drake is telling a story about, I guess, one of his OVO members that he had pawned one of the chains to get some quick cash, and he didn't come to Drake and just ask Drake, one of the richest guys in the world probably, for some money. He decided to sell the chain because he thought he would be embarrassed by going up to Drake and asking him. So he went behind Drake's back and sold the OVO chain that he gave him, right? And he says, I think we really got to point out that Drake said, "To me, he sold the only thing that ever has mattered." And you're probably thinking, what is he talking about? He's not talking about the chain. He doesn't really care about the chain as much. He really cares about the loyalty. So this is already somebody that has proven that he's unloyal to Drake, and that ties back into friends' decisions. They'll never know they friends' decisions friends never had to decide, right? So he doesn't understand his OVO member's decision for selling the chain when he could have just came to him and asked him, "Do you not know I'm Drake?" I don't know the full situation, but that's what I'm interpreting by this, right? There's another track, Make Them Remember. He says, please stop asking me about what's going on with 23andMe, right? The reason why he says, please stop asking me about what's going on with 23andMe, because he already knows what's going on, right? They both know. You know, LeBron was seen at the pop-out. He was seen at Kendrick Lamar's concerts. He was seen reciting Kendrick Lamar's lines. And don't get me wrong, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But if you put it into Drake's perspective, and if you look at the history of LeBron and Drake, it does look a little, you know what I'm saying? Let's just say this. I wouldn't want my friend to do that. I wouldn't want my friend to be singing songs about my downfall. And hey, man, that's all I'm going to say. I didn't think it was that deep, but when I put myself in Drake's shoes, I can see that. Again, but this ties back into they'll never know their friends' decisions. Friends never had to decide. And because Drake doesn't understand why LeBron would do this, why LeBron would decide to go to the pop-out, to go sing Kendrick songs, to do all of this knowing that he's in a friendship with Drake. Why would LeBron do that? But he'll never know his friends' decisions because he's not in his friends' shoes. So he doesn't know what's going on through their brains. So he can't decipher why they decided to do what they did. That's another example. Another example would be on Make Them Pay, when he says, you never call me back, but destiny is written, right? And basically before the line before this, he said that you never call me back and I'll never forgive you, right? You know, he's taking these things personal. He's taking it personal, right? And he's specifically talking about J. Cole, because J. Cole was supposed to, not to say that he was supposed to go into battle with Kendrick Lamar himself, but I think Drake expected J. Cole to stand at least by his side, maybe not go at people, because let's call a spade a spade. J. Cole technically was the first one to drop a diss track, right? He dropped the diss track. Yeah, we could say Kendrick started it. He started it off, but J. Cole directed it at Kendrick first. So Drake's probably thinking like, oh yeah, we about to get him then. Oh yeah, like let's do this. And then J. Cole does what he does and he apologizes at his own concert. Which I don't technically disagree with that move, but we gotta put ourselves in Drake's shoes. If I'm putting myself in Drake's shoes, I see that as, wow, like how could you press the ignition and then recall some memories and then say that it didn't exist, whatever he said, right? How could you do that? You know what I'm saying? That is a little crazy, that is a little weird. You started off with a diss, then you recalled it, and it's like, nah, man, that's not cool. To Drake, right? I think it was cool. Look, man, if you don't want to partake in that, then don't partake in it. I don't think he should have did it to begin with, you know, but it is what it is. But this all ties back into this one line. They'll never know their friends' decisions. Friends never had to decide. That is going to be the theme of the cover art that we're going to be making for this album. And I just really like that line. If you guys haven't heard Firm Friends, I think it's the best song on the album, in my opinion. And I really do like that line because it really makes you think, like, you really don't know who your friends are, right? You don't know. People could just be pretending, and people could just be here for the day and gone tomorrow. You never truly know, right? But there will be a day when you do, or you will know, because there will be a rainy day. And on that rainy day, that'll determine who your friends are. You know what I'm saying? That'll determine who your friends are. You know, who answers the phone when you call them first? Right? Who picks up on the first or second ring? Right? Who's there? Who has your back? Who's willing to give you some bread when times are hard? Who's really there for you? I guess we'll never know. The cover art features Drake wearing the iconic Michael Jackson glove, which he reportedly purchased at an auction for around $123,000. This is the same glove Michael Jackson wore during the 1983 Motown 25 performance, where he famously debuted the moonwalk. The glove has also become associated with Jackson's effort to conceal the effects of vitiligo. The glove would also serve as a symbolic statement. Going into the release of Iceman, Drake was on the verge of surpassing Michael Jackson's record for the most #1 singles by a male artist, making the choice feel intentional and possibly foreshadowing what was to come. Drake is holding up the hand gesture that forms the number 6. This references his nickname, the Six God, as well as his hometown of Toronto. The nickname comes from the 6 foreign municipalities that merged to form modern Toronto: Old Toronto, Etobicoke, North York, Scarborough, York, and East York. Through these details, the cover art connects Drake's legacy, his city, and his pursuit of music history all within a single image. Alright, y'all, so as you can tell, we have the original cover art right here on the screen, so we're just going to break it down real quick. The thing that I like about this cover art specifically is it's simple, you know. I think when you have simple designs, you want to convey more of a message, right? You want the message to be clear, concise, and you want people to generally get it, right? So when we look at this cover art, we see the obvious things. We see the Michael Jackson glove that he reportedly paid $123K for. We see the Six God symbol. This symbol has a couple meanings. It also means okay. And I also saw Charlemagne the God. I was watching The Breakfast Club. He said this is the symbol of the white power structure. We're not gonna get into that, right? We're not gonna get into the depths of it, but he also said that as well. So I thought that was interesting. So this symbol means a lot to a lot of different people. And I also read that you can't throw this up in certain neighborhoods because it's disrespectful to like gangs, and it's a lot of meanings with this symbol. But I think Drake was trying to symbolize the 6 because he's a 6 God and he's trying to pay homage to Toronto, right? So I think those are the obvious ones, right? What I did find was I found something interesting. So I was on Reddit earlier today and I saw a couple users saying that this symbol looks like a rabbit, right? And then now when I start to look at it, and I kind of agree, it does look like a rabbit, especially with the black background that he used to place emphasis on the glove specifically. And he also used kind of like a motion blur as well in the back, which I don't really like the motion blur, but it does add a cool touch to it. But anyways, specifically, this looks like a rabbit, right? If we go back into that theory. And when I looked up what the symbolism for a rabbit was in literature, I found out that a rabbit is actually a catalyst for entering the unknown. So the reason why this correlates, or this is relevant in this picture right here, is because Drake is entering a part in his career where he's entering the unknown. He doesn't know specifically what's to come after these albums. He also dropped 3 projects on the same day, right? We have to take that into consideration. So he was trying to make a statement, and I think the statement was clear that he wanted out of his contract, his deal, right? So with that being said, where is he gonna go next? That's kind of left up in the air. We don't know. I'm sure he knows to a certain extent, but he's working out on deals. He's trying to make sure that, you know, he's benefiting the most from whatever deal he's about to sign, right? And I think that's important. So I think that's where he's at right now, and I think that's why the white rabbit is relevant in this cover art. So with that being said, I'm gonna show you guys the reference board now that we're gonna use to create the cover art that you see. And yeah, stay tuned, I'll be right back. All right, y'all, as you can see, this is the references that we use to create our Iceman piece, right? So we're just gonna briefly go over these. I also wanted to point out, I forgot to mention earlier when I was going over the original cover art, that a lot of people were connecting this to the Matrix as well, right? They were saying that Drake, and I remember Drake was coming out and he was saying in a couple of songs on For All the Dogs that he's Neo in the Matrix. He's figuring out the schemes behind closed doors and all of that. And I think that's something that was unintentionally added, because in the movie specifically, Neo is actually, when he's first introduced to the Matrix, he has to follow the girl that has a white rabbit tattoo on her shoulder, and that's ultimately the decision that makes him discover, you know, Morpheus and the Matrix and what it's all about, right? So he makes that decision to step into the unknown, which also ties into the white rabbit symbolism, because the white rabbit is the catalyst of the unknown, right? So Drake and Neo both decided to step into the unknown and discover, you know, how to play the game differently, you know, discover a new level of life. And specifically in Neo's instance, Neo he wants to discover the Matrix, you know, what's really going on behind closed doors, what's the real world look like, right? And Drake, he wants to discover his new identity in music, right? What's longevity for him? What makes the most sense business-wise? So he's stepping into new business ventures while Neo's stepping into new metaphysical ventures, right? So, done rambling. We're gonna go over our pieces right here. I thought this image was a perfect image to represent the cover art recreation that I wanted to do. I think it shows Drake pretty vulnerable. It shows him very closed off, right? He's very closed off in this picture. You can tell that he's thinking about something. He's reflecting. I think when Drake is reflecting and he's thinking and he's in this emotional bag, that some of his best music comes out. So I wanted to encapsulate that. I also wanted to make it so that you guys are gonna see later. I'll explain it later, but I just really like this image. So this was our main image for the piece. And then the rest of the references, I actually referenced my own work. This didn't actually make the final piece that I made, but I thought it was interesting. My first idea was to kind of use these white silhouettes that I made to blend in with Drake, but it didn't work out in the end. I thought it looked crazy. And if you guys want to actually know how to make this, like these stencil kind of outlines, I actually have a video on my page. If you go to my design breakdown for this cover art, you will see how I actually make the stencil design. I think it's cool. I think it looks really cool. Like this looks dope. I'm not gonna lie. I made this like probably like 2-3 years ago, and this is still one of my favorite pieces to this day. So shout out to that piece. Okay, so the reason why we have this here is because I wanted to add the knives being stabbed into Drake's back, because I wanted to play off that theme of betrayal, right? I told you guys my favorite track from this album was Firm Friends, and specifically the line, they'll never know their friends' decisions because friends never had to decide. So I wanted each knife to represent someone in Drake's camp that we know about that stabbed him in the back, or that he feels has stabbed him in the back. So one for LeBron, one for J. Cole, one for hip hop. I think hip hop stabbed him in the back as well. And another one for the label, right, UMG. So I wanted to use that. What are these? Oh, this is actually the Maid of Honor cover art. I really like this cover art. This didn't make the final cut. I just thought it was very interesting, blending Drake's father, himself, and his mother into one image. This was dope. I think this is a far better cover art than this one right here, just in my opinion. But shout out to Maid of Honor. That's a dope cover art, you know. Okay, we have a couple Michael references here. We had the moonwalk, right? Basically, why these made the cut is because I wanted to make. I like how this is a silhouette, right? So you can't really tell if this is Michael or not, but we know just by the pose, and we know by the title of it, of course. But it still gives us a sense of mystery because we can't see his face fully. So I wanted to take that as well and put it into the piece. This was just another piece, another Michael Jackson reference. that I saw online. I thought it was cool. The reason why I really like this piece right here was because of the signature right in the back, the cursive writing. I really like that. I thought it was dope. Okay. This piece right here was very interesting. This goes off, this is similar to this one, right? As far as I wanted to capture that silhouette looking feel, that mystique, mysteriousness, right? I think this is a very mysterious piece. Like, if you look at this piece, you can't tell who this is, but the way that it's highlighted and the way that it's presented, it's very detailed and it's very consistent, right? Sorry, y'all, that was my timer going off. This piece right here was actually dope. Shout out to, let me shout out these artists too. These are all artists I follow on Instagram. Shout out to, I think it's XIII. He actually predicted this cover art, which is insane. I don't know how he predicted. So before this cover art came out, he already had posted this, right? And then when Drake dropped his cover art, like, he went viral essentially, right? Because he dang near predicted the cover art. So shout out to him. Shout out to Outline Art, and shout out to, I think he goes by Will Graphics. Shout out to him as well. Another outlining piece, basically the same thing. I found another piece that I liked, and because then again, we're getting into this mystique, this mysterious vibe. We don't know, we know that this is 21 Savage. You might not know, I know it is, but the details are very adamant and they're bright on this piece, and I really like that. So I thought that was cool. And we also have an OG piece. This is one of my first pieces that I ever made. I made this 4 years ago, y'all. I've been doing this for 4 years now, and this is one of the first pieces I ever made. So shout out to this piece right here, and I'm glad that I'm able to pull up my work and use it as references. That's always great. As an artist, it's a great feeling as an artist, like when you can reference your own stuff. Just like, I don't know what's better than that, man. Like, when I see like my own pieces giving me inspiration on my new pieces, then it's just, I don't know, man. It's a feeling you can't really describe, but it's definitely a feeling of joy and a feeling of, you know, hard work paying off, because the fact that my own pieces can inspire me is amazing, right? So yeah, those are all of the references that I used or got inspired by for this piece. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you guys the piece that we made. And we're gonna go over the similarities and the differences between the original cover art and the cover art I made. So stay tuned. All right, y'all, so as you can see, we have the original piece on the left and my addition, my recreation on the right. So let's get into it. So as you can see on the right side, we kept the glove. I thought the glove was very symbolic, so I wanted to keep the glove in this piece because of what it represents. It represents Drake breaking Michael Jackson's record, and it also pays homage to the legend himself as well. So we put that on there. Then the biggest detail, I don't know, you guys might miss it, is the knives going in his back, right? So the reason why I added the knives was because I wanted it to represent Drake being stabbed by people that he thought were on his side. So we have a knife in his back for LeBron. We have a knife in his back for J. Cole. We have a knife in his back from hip hop. I think, you know, people started to cast out Drake. People started to doubt him, and people started to say that he was done, you know? So we have a knife from the fans. And then we also have a knife from UMG, right? UMG is what Drake is, you know, disputing with them in the courts about. He thinks that he was unjustly, he thinks that, you know, UMG conspired against him, right? So we have a knife for them as well, right? We also continue to use that pose that he had where he's covering his face and he's over here. I think the pose specifically tells you where he's at mentally, right? He's closed off. He's to himself more, you know, and he's also reflecting on those times and that people hurt him and all the people that have stabbed him in the back recently. But he still shows you the symbol, right? And he's still the Iceman. He's becoming the Iceman in this, right? Also, instead of adding the little cursive in the back, I don't know if you guys remembered, I showed you guys the Michael Jackson piece where his name was in the back. I decided to just add his signature to the side right here. So basically him co-signing this piece, him co-signing this new version of himself as Iceman, right? So, and then as far as the background, we just used a regular crowd concert kind of background to symbolize that as well. That symbolizes, you know, Drake amongst the stars, right? Amongst the crowd, right? Him in a crowded concert. You know, when you put your phone lights up in a concert, that's what that's supposed to represent, the crowd, right? So, got a couple different meanings here. And I think that's cool, right? You know, I think both of these cover arts do a good job of displaying meanings, you know, and I think this one is not as simple as the original, but it is pretty simple. Like, I think you can understand and get most of the concepts just by looking at it, right? This one, a little bit more simple, makes you think a little bit more. And that's the reason why I like simple cover art, because you got to think, like, why did the artist choose this specifically, right? I actually didn't find out who made this cover art specifically. I should have researched that, so that's my bad. But yeah, I didn't add the motion blur. I tried to play around with the motion blur as well. I didn't really like it all like that. I thought it was a little bit awkward, and I'd rather have just, you know, giving you a simple image, a straight to the point image, rather than blurring things out. So I messed around with it. I just didn't like it, basically. But yeah, that's going to be the end of today's video. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe down below. Join the movement. If you guys like this series, It's Deeper in Art, please leave a like down below. This is my longer form content videos, and a lot of effort goes into these videos. So if you could leave a thumbs up down below, that would be lovely. I appreciate everybody for watching. I appreciate you guys for staying tuned and showing up every week and supporting me. Like, it means a lot. It goes a long way. And we're still on this grind, man. It's definitely a grind. I don't know if you guys can tell, but when you're working and you're doing this at the same time and you're doing all that, I'm not trying to say no excuses, it just becomes a lot. So I appreciate you guys for showing up and rocking with me, man, you know. Also, I have a live stream, so I actually live streamed the creation of this art piece, so you guys should go check that out on the channel. If you just go over to the tab that says lives, you can actually see me making this piece right in real time. So special shout out to y'all. Thank you again for watching, and I will see y'all in the next video. Peace.